Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome to the No Spin News, Monday, November 7th, 2022. Stand up for your country, and you do that by voting tomorrow. I'm not going to lecture you. I mean, it's ridiculous. If you're watching and listening to me, you're very interested in your country, and you will go out and cast your ballot, I'm sure. So the midterms 2022 are upon us. Why are they so important besides the active political implications? Why are midterm elections in general so important? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Americans, generally speaking, do not trust politicians. Now, we see them at rallies, yay, and all of that. I remember 11 months ago going out with Donald Trump on a history tour. The crowds were delirious to see him. But those are the true believers. Most Americans understand we have to have active leadership. Their vote makes that possible, but they don't really inherently trust the system. You know what? They're right. Power corrupts. You see it all throughout history. Good people start out and they turn into bad people. The more power you get, the more moral discipline you must have, or you just become corrupt. And that is the truth. So the midterm elections are a constraint on the powerful. Between 1934, that's FDR, and 2018, all right, 4 years ago, the average loss of a president in power was 28 House seats and 4 Senate seats. Okay? That's the average over that big period of time. And it's not an accident. Americans will try to temper power. Okay? So the data is fascinating for our recent lifetime. You started with Bill Clinton, 1994. He beat Bush the Elder in 92, as you remember, because the economy went south and Bush looked befuddled about it. Didn't have any confidence in him to turn the economy around. This new vibrant guy, Bill Clinton, comes in and he wins. But 2 years later, his party loses 8 Senate seats, 8, and 52 House seats. 2 years later, and Clinton is like, whoa. And then he suddenly veers to the center. If you remember, passes the Welfare Reform Act, Crime Act, suddenly goes to the center where Joe Biden was. The next president, George W. Bush, Bush the Younger, is the exception because of 9/11. So 2022, just 14 months after we were attacked, that was an anomaly. The nation had rallied around their president, and he actually won seats. Then Obama comes in, the savior, all right? 2010 midterm elections. Obama and his party lose 6 Senate seats and 63 House seats, a whopping defeat. Now, Obama didn't do what Clinton did. Obama didn't go too far to the center, but he stopped his progressive agenda mostly. Stopped it. Okay? And then Trump, 2 years in, 2018 midterm elections, the Republicans actually won 2 Senate seats under Trump, but they lost 40 House seats. Okay, so there is the resume, and you can see. You can see that Americans are not, they're stingy with giving away power. And they should be. That's a smart thing because power does corrupt. Now, I am sticking with my predictions that I made last week that the Republicans will sweep the House. I can't put a number on it because I don't know some of the money involved in some of these House operations. I can't possibly follow them all. Nobody could. But it's going to be significant. All right? And that's it for Nancy Pelosi. That's the most important thing. The corrupt Nancy Pelosi is finished forever. She's not going to run again. She's 82. Okay, so she's out. That's big for the country. And in the Senate, I'm saying that at the final tally will be 52 Republican senators, 48 Democrats, or those who caucus with the Democrats. 52-48. It's now 50-50. Now, I could be short on that. I absolutely could be short on that. But that looks to me to be in the ballpark. Those are my predictions on Wednesday. We'll know if I'm a complete idiot or not. Okay, now the corporate news media allied with the Democratic Party, which is the first time in history this has ever happened. Very dangerous. So Comcast owns NBC. Comcast, if you read my column, okay, my message of the day today and my column on Sunday, Comcast is an exceedingly liberal corporation run out of Philadelphia. It owns NBC News. Okay, so NBC comes out with a generic congressional ballot poll over the weekend. 786 likely voters. This is ridiculous. Do you not have enough money to poll enough people to make it legitimate, NBC? It's ridiculous. Question: what is your preference for the outcome of Tuesday's congressional elections? Republican control 47, Democratic control 48. Okay, so 75% of Americans say the country's headed in the wrong direction under the Democrats, yet NBC News is telling us most Americans want to continue that. Doesn't make any sense. If NBC is right on Wednesday, I'll lead with that. If they're right. But it goes against every other survey. And there's I'm not going to accuse NBC News of being corrupt, but boy, it's close. Now, if they get whacked and NBC is wrong, then you got a case for it's corrupt. No doubt about it. Circumstantial case, but a case. Okay, now, at the same time, same period of time, Rasmussen asked the same question. The Rasmussen poll, 2,500 likely voters, many more than NBC. The elections were held today. Would you vote for Republicans or Democrat? Republicans, 48. Democrats, 43. A 5-point GOP gap. And it's 6 points if you compare it to NBC. So who's right? Rasmussen or NBC? I'm putting my money on Rasmussen. And that's the memo. President's schedule today didn't do anything to help the people. He just campaigned for Democrats virtually most of the time, but he did go out to Bowie, Maryland for some reason. I'm not sure why, but he did. Don't really care much about that. I wish he would concentrate on problem solving, but he is incapable of doing that. So over the weekend, another amusing thing happened. So on Sunday, yesterday, President Biden tweeted, now he doesn't tweet, but his people do. The gas across the country is averaging $3.19 a gallon. That's not true. Gas across the country is $3.80 a gallon. So Musk immediately flags it. This is Elon, who came out today, said everybody should vote Republican. He's given the Republicans a hard time already. He's given the Democrats a hard time already. So Elon Musk flags it and says, this is bull. And that's good. Finally. Trump got slaughtered by Twitter. Remember that? Every day. And some of that was righteous. Trump says stuff that isn't true all the time. He does. And it should be flagged. I think Biden and Trump are tied in this game. And that was my Sunday column. How many moderate lies add up to a big lie? So we list Joe's misdirections. Okay, the price of gasoline, as you'll remember, 2 years ago when Biden took office, actually, excuse me, 22 months ago, was $2.37 a gallon. Is now $3.80. Just want to set the record straight. Another poll, ABC News, Washington Post, liberal poll. 1,000 adults. Compared to 2 years ago, is your family's financial situation better, worse, or the same? Worse, 43, the same, 39, better, 18. That speaks for itself. Now, that is a 20% jump from when Trump left office in worse. My family's worse off. 20 points in 2 years. There is a concerted effort to intimidate and silence conservative thinkers, rewrite American history, and replace our God-given individual liberty with big government controls. The very freedoms secured by our Constitution are now being threatened by the most liberal leftists our nation has ever seen. They have failed to secure our borders, weakened our position on the global stage, are trying to indoctrinate and corrupt our children in school, and the list goes on and on. But there are plenty of patriots with the courage to stand up to the far left. AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, is the leading conservative advocacy and benefits organization in the USA. I am a member, and I hope you will join as well. AMAC members have access to money-saving benefits, a robust website and mobile app, and a magazine filled with all kinds of great content. So please join AMAC today at amac.us and tell them O'Reilly sent you. That's amac.us. Okay, Georgia early voting. This is a very fascinating story. You're not going to get anywhere else. I can guarantee that, by the way. So Georgians have broken midterm records for early voting by mail. Okay? And 2.5 million in-person and absentee ballots have already been cast in the state of Georgia. So you can go into a polling place in person and cast an early vote there. This is according to Georgia's Secretary of State. It's not a guess. In 2018 midterms under Trump, 1.8 million voted early in Georgia. Now it's 2.5 million. Okay? This in the face of the Georgia election law that was passed, you'll remember, in March of 2021. So Georgia redefined how the vote would take place. You heard about all of the accusations. The most stunning one, and this was against the new Georgia voting law, was by Biden. Roll it.
This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic, what they're trying to do. And it cannot be sustained. And do everything in my power, along with my friends in the House and the Senate, to keep that from becoming the law.
Of course, Biden failed because he fails at everything, and he called the new law Jim Crow, and he said that it would deny people the right to vote, and so did Stacey Abrams, who's going to get waxed on Tuesday at the gubernatorial race. All this law change was everybody had to have an ID in order to cast a ballot, whether it's absentee or not. Everybody had to have ID issued by the state. Driver's license, state ID. If you couldn't afford it, they give you one. Okay, that's number one. Number two, absentee ballots were to be printed on special security paper with an ID listed, so they knew who was voting. Georgia people knew. And third, you couldn't hang out at the precincts giving people drinks and candy or whatever they wanted to do. That's not a radical law. Yet the Democrats scream and yell, didn't want it, voter suppression, and now we know that it's enhanced voting. So these are the lies that just keep, and Biden ought to be ashamed of himself. He's going to apologize? No. Jim Crow, what a bunch of crap. Now, you'll remember that Major League Baseball pulled the All-Star game out of Atlanta because of that law, that new law. So you're going to apologize, Major League Baseball? Rob Manfred? Going to apologize? Finally, right now, it stands at 39 million Americans have already voted. Now, there's a lot of paranoia, particularly among Republicans. I understand that because of the Trump situation. I think it's a majority of Republicans believe that the 2020 vote was a fraud. They still believe that. All right, so they are suspicious. And once again, I will tell you, each state monitors its own vote. There is no cabal. There is no federal presence other than the Federal Election Commissions, which monitors the money flowing into the candidates. There are rules about that. All right, let's bring in Hans von Spakovsky. He is the Heritage Foundation's Manager, Election Law Reform Initiative. Wow. He comes to us from Washington. Did I miss anything here? Did I report everything accurately? That's very important, and I want to know if I screwed up at all.
No, Bill, you got it exactly right. I might add that not only is Georgia seeing record turnout, but just a couple of weeks ago, Stacey Abrams' lawsuit that she filed several years ago claiming that the prior governor's race had been stolen and claiming that all these reform changes were discriminatory and violated the Voting Rights Act. The entire case was thrown out by a federal judge, a judge, by the way, appointed by Barack Obama.
So Ms. Abrams has no credibility. She is an election denier. No doubt about it. You filed a federal lawsuit about it. Now, many conservatives believe that mail-in ballots in particular are crooked, that many more Democrat votes come in through the mail than Republican votes. Is that true?
Well, again, it depends on the state. Remember, in 2020, there was a big push by Republicans to get people to vote in person rather than through the mail. And again, like I said, it depends on the state. If you're a state like Georgia that requires an ID for absentee balloting, you're in much better shape than a state like California, which has no ID requirement of any kind, and therefore you don't have that security check on absentee ballots.
What about the difference in counting the vote? Again, a lot of people very suspicious. Some states will have their results certified at the end of Election Day. Others will go 2-3 days, maybe more after that, correct?
Yeah, and that again depends on how good election officials are in those states in administering the voting process. The key to good security there is to have poll watchers and poll observers watching every aspect, for example, of absentee ballots being opened, processed, and then counted. It's when those observers are not allowed to see that. Remember, we saw that in 2020 in places like Philadelphia and Detroit. That's what lends to people being suspicious about the outcome. And it's really important that kind of transparency be maintained in this election.
But it won't be in some places. Everybody knows that. What are some of the worst states as far as vote count deadlines?
Pennsylvania probably is one of the worst. Remember, they've had long delays there in coming up with election results. And look, they're still litigating. Within the past week or so, a case ended up before the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court because the Secretary of State said she wasn't going to abide by a state law that says that voters have to put the date on their absentee ballot along with their signature. And she was telling local registrars, you go ahead and count that vote anyway.
And that's against the Commonwealth's law?
Yes, it is. And fortunately, the state Supreme Court came out and said, look, Secretary of State, you can't do that. You have to abide by state law.
And the Secretary of State, of course, is a Democrat, right?
She is, yes.
All right. Now, so we can expect with Fetterman Oz that we might not know by the end of tomorrow who wins.
That's exactly right, and we may have quite a delay. Keep in mind, too, remember, Pennsylvania has divided government. The Republicans control the state legislature. The governor is a Democrat. The Republican legislature several times passed election reform packages that would have solved a lot of these problems. Every time it was vetoed by the Democratic governor.
So in your expertise, and I think you're the best in the country at what you do, is this because the Democratic Party wants people to vote who are not qualified to vote?
Well, I think that's certainly true with some of their political consultants and others. I mean, look at the way they've been pushing in city after city to allow aliens, people who are not U.S. citizens, to vote. That's always the left side of the political aisle pushing that.
Now, in California, migrants, undocumented, can vote. They can cast a ballot because there's no ID requirement, correct?
That's right. Plus, they have what they call automatic voter registration. If you go to get a driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote without them even asking you about it. And of course, California is one of the states that provides driver's licenses to illegal aliens.
So not many people know this, but if you are not an American citizen and somehow get to California, get a driver's license, you can vote.
Well, you're not supposed to, but
you're not supposed to. But
you're not supposed to.
You can, and nobody's going to stop you. Or if they find out later, nobody's going to do anything about it.
Unfortunately, that is true in California and in a couple other places too.
Where?
Well, New York's the same way. New York, they automatically going to register you to vote. They issue driver's license to people who aren't U.S. citizens. And Massachusetts is a similar state. In fact, listen, in Massachusetts, there's a referendum on the ballot tomorrow to repeal a state law that says that no one at the Department of Motor Vehicles can ask any questions about the immigration status of someone getting a driver's license. Well, since they have automatic voter registration, that means aliens are going to get automatically registered to vote.
It's de facto legalization. There's no doubt about it. And that's what the Democratic Party wants. But I don't think most Americans understand any of this, Hans. They don't know that California or Massachusetts or New York, if you get here and you get here illegally, that you can vote. They don't know that.
Right. No, and that is a real problem. Plus, keep in mind, and this is certainly important to all the congressional districts with elections tomorrow. Remember, when they reapportioned the country, right, determined how many members of the U.S. House every state has, it's based on total population. So states like California, which has a huge illegal alien population, they probably have four to six more congressional seats than they ought to have.
Yeah, based upon the undocumented people living there.
Right.
Final question. Do you believe that this midterm election will by and large be honest and an accurate portrayal of what the American people want?
Yeah, I think it probably will be in the vast majority of states. I have concerns about some of the states, like I said, New York, California, and others, where they have almost no good rules and regulations in place to protect the honesty of the election. But pretty much, I think everywhere else, particularly places like Georgia, where we have a neck-and-neck Senate race, they've done a lot to improve the security of their elections.
Okay. Thank you, Hans. Appreciate it very much. That was a really good segment, I thought. A lot of good information in that segment. Listen to this. Convicted home title thief explaining what happens after he forges your home's title and takes over as the new owner.
Nobody thinks that I can take their house and borrow against the house. Oh no, I have title insurance. It's in my name, or he would have to get some special document. They would call me. Nobody's calling you. After I've stolen the title, borrowed against it, or sold the property, it's 60 to 90 days for that person to even figure out that they're the victim of this crime. You start getting foreclosure notices. You've got 4 mortgages on your house. You don't even own your home anymore. It's not even in your name.
Home title fraud is growing 2.5 times faster than credit card fraud, if you can believe it. You could be a victim and not even know it. Here's how to protect yourself and verify your home's title is still in your name. please visit HometitleLock.com, promo code radio. Then register your address for your no obligation home title report, a $100 value, free. Again, get your free home title report at HometitleLock.com, promo code radio. All right, here's the final thought of the day. Here's how the rest of the week shakes. I'm not going to do a show tomorrow because it's election coverage and we can't compete with that. But I will be tweeting from about 7 p.m. on, maybe a little early as well, but at Bill O'Reilly, we'll shoot out the tweets, just as we did last year. I'm going to do a hit on News Nation about 9 p.m., my analysis of the day's events. And then Wednesday, we're going to have the best post-11 coverage. I mean, you're going to be shocked on how good it is. And Thursday, we'll wrap it all up. So stay with us all this week. We hope you are enjoying our election coverage, which is smart and honest. Today's, with the mail-in ballots, proves it. And thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you on Wednesday. If you are stuck in a timeshare and you haven't called Lone Star Transfer yet, what are you waiting for? Lone Star Transfer has helped more than 16,000 happy customers. They are family-owned, have a 99% success rate. Their process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. I mean, does it get better than that? The team at Lone Star Transfer will keep you informed every step of the way until you are legally and permanently released from your timeshare. So don't pay another penny for a timeshare you don't use. Get peace of mind today with Lone Star Transfer. They guarantee the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and in a specific time frame. Give Lone Star Transfer a call for a free no-obligation consultation. 855-551-7066, 855-551-7066, or online at lonestartransfer.com.